Hey there, G3XE here. That's right, I'm doing a video face to screen. Well, I don't know why, just thought I better get used to weirdly staring at my own face. It's not a good camera by any means, just my laptop camera. And as you can see here, I am behind, what's this? A new Dungeon Master screen. It was one of the presents that my dad was very thoughtful in getting me, and he just kind of, apparently, as he described it, searched Dungeons and Dragons stuff online and just found this, and I was like, I do not have one, and I need one, and this one's awesome. So it came with all these supplemental things for Pathfinder and 5th edition on it, and just really cool looking. I mean, they aren't permanent, too. You can slide pieces of paper in here and with your own background, and it's really sturdy, folds flat, really nice. So I thought it would be a great occasion for me to come out from behind my metaphorical Dungeon Master screen and show, the 41 some odd subscribers that I have. Hello. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this video is playing Dungeons and Dragons with family, or or sharing that with family, or whatever. I was away from home for a while, down to South Texas to visit family, and big family on that side of the family, so lots of cousins, and everyone's just about old enough now. So I mean, I'm like in the middle age wise, and but everyone's in high school or older, or graduated college and everything like that, right? So I brought down my D&D stuff just a set of dice and all my notes and stuff in the book, right? So enough for me to work on my own stuff, my own notes, campaign stuff, and that type of thing. So and I ended up having a really awesome experience, because a lot of my cousins are really smart, really cerebral, kind of, creative people. And that's really all you need, I think, is creative people. So I eschewed all the minutia of character creation, and basically rolled their stats with them, 4d6, drop the lowest. Told them to come up with a character, 3 personality traits, and assign those numbers, higher being more of that characteristic, right? And I just wrote down the modifiers for them, and we just rolled with it, and it was awesome. We didn't even have hit points. I've been trying out this new kind of system of just like narrative combat, and it got crazy. I set it in my new world, of Taelar, and I'm keeping Taelar fairly vague in the details so that I can just put all these adventures that I happen to run in the world, and then familiar factions and stuff, and it can kind of flesh out as I play. But it was a great time. All my cousins really got into it. I played with 5 other players, 3 boys, 2 girls, and just there's nothing better than that look on someone's face when they realize that they can do anything, right? Like, one of the great questions was, well, how do you win? And I said, there is no winner. It's cooperative storytelling. And she's like, oh. And I'm telling you, this girl, one of my cousins in high school, she was like, I'm like, well, there are all these, fantasy races in the world, and you could be a human if you want. She's like, I want to be a purple giant. I was like, you can be a purple giant. So I just said, well, you'd probably be really strong, and you're about 9 feet tall, and so she's playing this purple giant. We got the other person playing a goblin. We got one person who wanted to play a drug addict. And well, what happened was he wanted to roll straight down the line, and I was like, oh, if you want, you can do that, because I was even saying if you want to make change stats, you could. He rolled and got a 6, I believe, as his lowest on Constitution. That's with dropping the lowest die. And I was like, well, you can re-roll that. He's like, no, I'll work with it. And I was like, so these players, having never played before, any of them, a few video games, but, and new to tabletop RPGs, and they're already doing awesome player traits, and this is one of the things I love about playing with people who aren't exposed to other Dungeons and Dragons stuff, which is very rare because usually you get exposed to Dungeons and Dragons stuff, then learn more, and then seek out a game, right? Well, none of them. These are some of the words that none of them knew, right? And I wasn't telling them any of this. I just mean that none of them said the word healbot. None of them said the word tank. None of them said the word optimized, or you should put this number in this. It was just beautiful. It was raw storytelling with numbers to guide the fun, and it was awesome. I built just this very small campaign that dealt with the Grimwood, which is a wood near Lustrain, the essentially Old English kind of city and civilization of humans in Taelar, mostly humans. And anyway, the Grimwood, no one goes into it for obvious reasons. Evil lurks within the woods, and few people who go in come out. And there's this little small village called Vole, Volle, that lies on its edge. And essentially, they all start as I just told them, you have to be in Vole for some reason. You could be passing through, you could be a person, right? So one of the guys who ended up kind of taking the leadership role was a native of the town, and that's what drove his leadership role. He was like, well, I'm the only one who's lived in this town. I know this place better than you guys. Follow me, right? And it wasn't like in an annoying way with the other players. It just was really natural and fun. And there was a little bit of player or character antagonism, but not player antagonism, if that makes sense. And so anyway, the town of Vole has been troubled recently because for the past few weeks, every night from this cave, this old abandoned mine back before Grimwood was evil, that's up in the mountain, just has been radiating these horrible screams. And no one knew what it was. No one wants to go check, but it keeps people up at night. So eventually the pseudo-town mayor, asked for volunteers. So I said, one by one, you stand up and volunteer, but everything you say is up to you, right? Like, or why you're doing this or everything like that. And so, one person's like, I will take on the mantle, right? And one person's like, the goblin's like, I'll do it. I'm, goblin. I don't know. They just had very personable intros. And that is something I'm definitely going to be incorporating, is even before, with experienced players, I'm going to be like, write an introduction. I'm going to say, here's where the opening scene takes place. Write an introduction for your character and tell it to me. And I'm going to do that before the game, and that way you don't sit down with all the players and then everyone's struggling to find a reason why they're all there. Be like, I need you, like, write a cinematic introduction, and then you can just be like, and you point to a player, and the player has that set, and they're like, you see the dust, rising above the road as a man in a bright red hood, Little Red Riding Hood is what came to mind for some reason, rides a black stallion. I don't know, whatever they have prepared, but no, it was awesome. We, one party member died, and there's no hit points. This system I've been using has to do with the higher. It's essentially like a damage gauge. So the higher you roll damage in a similar way, right, with the same dice and everything, but it goes from like 1 point of damage up to 20 points of damage, and kind of gauges the severity of the injury based on the type of weapon. So you have incised wounds versus blunt force wounds versus burns versus piercing, right? And so it's kind of like a grid, and so you say, well, if I rolled 9 damage and I had a bladed weapon, this means that I did a large gash or a stab to a non-vital area. And they get to pick and describe how that goes down, right? And it affects things, right? And so if someone gets stabbed in the lung, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it did 4 hit points, so he's totally fine. I'm going to be like, well, that guy's stabbed in the lung. He's coughing and wheezing out blood and sputtering and grabbing his chest. And, so it made for some really, I think the system complemented really well with the new players. So that was the last adventure in Taelar. They ended up dying. It was a banshee that was in the, I don't know if it was a banshee like straight out of the monster manual. It was just kind of my version of a banshee that had been haunting this cave And there was kind of a backstory to who this apparition was, but they wisely went and seeked out the aid of this old witch who lived in the woods to learn more, who they'd found out about via other ways. And she said, "Oh, well, you need to do this ritual to banish ghosts from the cave." And I described to them, what they needed, and it was salt, dipped in like red salt, so like salt that's been coated in blood, drawn into a certain diagram, and then this incantation is said. And so I give them all that, right, and then they're still having fun. They're cutting up. They're in character doing really funny things, getting into it, and but they never ever say that they get salt, right? And they don't. I gave it, and so when they finally get there and they're facing the banshee and their weapons aren't having any success because this banshee's like a incorporeal. They're like, "Oh yeah, we were gonna do the ritual. Okay, so what do we do?" It's like, "We need salt," and then I was like, "Did anyone bring salt?" Or they're like, "Oh shit, we forgot the salt," and it was really natural, fun role playing, and they ended up having to turn back and barely escape because of this kind of thing. And I even let them. I rolled to see if they had salt in their inventory on accident, but it was really low chances. And it was really fun. Everyone loved it, and it was, I think, the perfect blend of that narrative and player agency and, being smart about how you're going to face. Because the cool thing about this combat system is, like, if you outsmart the enemy, you can beat the enemy. It's not about hit points and power level and how you built your character. It's about, this beast shoots or can stare at you and turn you to stone. Well, I'm gonna reflect the thing. Like, that's kind of a trope that's been overdone, but stuff like that, right? So this banshee, you might I didn't have anything special, but I was thinking if they came up with any special weapon type things, I would give it to them. So like silvered blades, or maybe if they hit it with direct light, right? Like they found a way to magnify sunlight or something. So lots of different things. I find it really cool. And have any of you played Dungeons and Dragons with family members? Is that a rare thing? I think I'm unique in that I have lots and lots of cousins at my age range, but maybe people have memories of they used to when they were younger, or plans to when their family members grow up more. Let me know. I found it an excellent way to spend time over the Christmas break, and I found I really bonded with family members more than I have before when we were just doing small talk. So thanks. See you in the next one.